just half starting and getting over. I mean, it's been weird. It's been good. Then a couple things. I went into the chest X-ray. No, you're good.
All right, Craig,
Gerber,
are you ready?
Peel. I got you some. Ready? First,
good job. Wow. Okay. Go ahead, Lily.
Hi everyone, my name is Lily and I'm joined by my brother and sister Maverick and Scarlett. Welcome to the Goshen City Council. Today is November 17th, 2025. Thank you for making it to Goshen a great place to live, learn, and have fun. Now let's stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance.
Remember, we take our right hand and put it over our heart. That's right. Okay, ready?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, great job, guys. Mom and Dad, you're welcome to hang out for the entirety of the meeting, or you're welcome to go have dinner anytime now. Can we get one more round of applause for Lily? All right, could the clerk treasurer please call the roll?
Linda Gerber.
Here.
Megan Peel.
Here.
Council President Weddle.
Here.
Youth Advisor Reyes.
Here.
Council Letterock.
Here.
Riegsecker.
Here.
Nisley.
Here.
Schrock.
Here.
Okay. We do not have a minutes to approve tonight, but we do have the approval of tonight's meeting agenda. I believe you all received an additional agenda item, which is the financial report. So I recommend that we add that after item number 4, in case you have any questions about that. Is there a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Nisley and a second from Peel. All those in favor?
Aye.
And that motion passes unanimously. The next action item on our agenda is ordinance 5240. Could the council president please introduce the ordinance?
Will the clerk treasurer please read ordinance 5240 by title only?
Ordinance 5240, revisions to ordinance 5211, solid waste disposal and public nuisance.
I move for the passage of ordinance 5240 on first reading.
Second.
We have a motion from Weddle and a second from Schrock. All right. Are you presenting this, Bodie or Don? Okay.
Good evening, council. Don Shula with the City Goshen Legal Department. Was read ordinance 5240, make some revisions to ordinance 5211, which previously amended the accumulation of materials ordinance for the City of Goshen. I think we had provided a track change version that just kind of showed what the additions are. Chapter 1 is pretty simple. We're just kind of eliminating 2 provisions regarding the accumulation of materials on residential real properties. That standard talked about whether or not it was a violation if it created a fire, safety, or health hazard or created a harborage for rodents or insects. So it's deleting that section from there. And then we're creating in chapter 2 a new public nuisance provisions. We're proposing to create that. Chapter 2 is modeled on the Elkhart County Public Nuisance Ordinance. And some of the impetus behind this was just based on complaints that code enforcement gets from neighbors and people calling in about properties. And looking at what our ordinances allow us to address and what they don't. And this was seen as a potential change to allow code enforcement to address some additional, what we'd call problem properties that would give us the enforcement mechanisms to utilize all the way down from at the lower level, sending a letter and doing ordinance violations, bureau citations, and working with people, and then having the ability to abate those violations if they are more extreme and we have non-responsive property owners. So that's some of the background. If there's any specific questions about what's in primarily chapter 2 in the public nuisance section, I'm more than happy to address those or answer any other questions that anybody has.
Thank you. Questions or comments from the council?
I have a question about chapter 1, 61017. It's on page 5. Abatement and collection of costs. And it looks like there can be a $150 fee assessed. And then 61018, the penalty is $2,500 or $7,500. So we can assess the $150 fee, and then if nothing happens, then we can assess the higher fees. Is that what's going on? Can you explain that?
Sure. So 61017, and again, these are some of the existing provisions. That's when on what's left in that provision. So that's not cleaning up the property because we removed that out of chapter 1 and put it on chapter 2. But these are, there's not a sufficient number of solid waste containers provided, or somebody dumps solid waste onto other person's private property, or puts solid waste into the public right of way, and the city goes in and clean it up. It can assess up to $150 of its cost, or whatever its actual cost to abate, whatever the costs were to abate it, they can recoup those costs. The $2,500, that's in 6.61018. That is a fine that was only assessed if there's action taken into court and against the property owner. So that's likely the situation where obviously you have significant repeat offenders and you're going up the enforcement escalation ladder and you're not getting a response and you go that. But that fine in there, that penalty gets assessed by a court if we file a lawsuit under a violation of chapter 1 of the ordinance.
So the abatement fee is just
What our cost to clean up.
and then
Yep.
Problem goes away.
Correct.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments from council?
I have a question for Myron. Does the issue that we've been currently discussing have any recourse within this? Sorry to be a little bit vague, but I don't want to name any particular property. while we're talking about this, But I want to know if a certain situation I've been dealing with a resident could fall under this.
It gives us a little more teeth to go that direction with it. I mean, I haven't read it thoroughly yet, everything, but it's better than what was there before, because what we had before was really vague, very vague.
Thank you.
I had a question from a member of the public wondering about the references to the recycling center that's been closed. Are we just leaving that in there in case there's a day when we could open a new recycling center? Or
Yeah, I guess you interpret it that way. The ordinance was the revisions to this ordinance, this draft was prepared actually prior to the closing of the recycling center, and it was just kind of waited to bring it to the council until after the budget season. So that's why it's there. Certainly if that can be removed if that's desired, but.
Any additional questions? Okay, we'll move to the audience. Are there any questions from the audience regarding this proposed ordinance on the first reading? Okay, Seeing none, we'll move back to the council for a vote. Counselors, are you prepared for a vote? Okay, we'll proceed. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes unanimously on first reading. Counselors, would you like a second reading of this ordinance?
Yes, please.
Okay, Council President, can you introduce the ordinance?
Will the clerk treasurer please read ordinance 5240 by title only?
Revisions to ordinance 5211, solid waste disposal and public nuisance.
Move the passage of ordinance 5240 on second and final reading.
Second.
We have a motion from Weddle and a second from Nisley, I believe. Is that correct? Okay. Any additional questions or comments from the council or from the audience on second reading? Okay, seeing none, we'll move back to the council for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
And that passes unanimously on second reading. That brings us to action item number 2, ordinance 5241. Council President Weddle, can you introduce that item?
Will the clerk treasurer please read ordinance 5241 by title only?
Establishing the bridge number 410 county contribution fund.
I move the passage of ordinance 5241 on first reading.
Second.
We have a motion from Weddle and a second from Nisley. Welcome. Mr.
Good evening
Schuler.
again, Don Schuler with the legal department. So this ordinance, pretty straightforward, is establish a new fund, primarily just to keep accounting tracking purposes a little bit simpler. It's related to the third item on the agenda, which is an interlocal agreement involving the College Avenue reconstruction project, and specifically the reconstruction of bridge number 410, which crosses the Horn Ditch. That agreement with Elkhart County is providing that Elkhart County is providing the funding for the bridge reconstruction, but it's being incorporated into the College Avenue reconstruction project, so it can be all let at one time. So there's just one contractor out on College Avenue to coordinate the work. And due to that, the ordinance is creating a fund so that the county's appropriation of the funds for those costs are to be deposited into that fund and tracked in that fund, and the expenses paid from that fund. So we provide the accounting at the end of that process. It's just easier for everybody to do. So that's the entire purpose of the proposed ordinance for this fund.
Any questions or comments from the council?
So once the project's finished, once everything's closed out, any monies are returned, will that fund be eliminated?
Yes.
Okay, does that take council action as well?
No, I think it's in the way
Okay.
that the proposed ordinance was written. I think the last sentence in there or something says something that it terminates upon everything being finalized.
Perfect, thank you. Yep, you're absolutely right.
Additional questions or comments from the council? Okay. Counselor Schrock, did you have a question? Okay, we'll move to the audience. Any questions or comments from the audience? Okay, we'll move back to the council for a vote on first reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously on first reading. Counselor, would you like to do a second reading?
Yes.
Okay,
Would the clerk treasurer please read ordinance 5241 by title only?
Establishing the bridge number 410 county contribution fund.
And I move for the passage of ordinance 5241 on second and final reading.
Second.
we have a motion from Weddle and a second from Nisley. Any additional questions or comments from the council or anybody in the audience on this matter? All right, seeing no one, we'll move back to the council for a vote on second reading. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And that passes unanimously on second reading. That brings us to item number 3, the interlocal agreement. Counselors, do you have any additional questions for Mr. Schuler regarding this issue, or did he describe it adequately enough for you? Okay. Mr. Schuler. I didn't mean to cut you off. I was just trying
No.
to.
Yeah, all I was going to mention is that this has been kind of somewhat of a moving target. We've been having discussions with the county throughout the day. So we did receive their revised version of the interlocal. I
Okay.
did mail that earlier to the clerk treasurers, but I do have hard copies that would show just the track change versions of what they changed. And for the most part, it's pretty insignificant. I mean, some of it's just preferring to use, will as opposed to shall and some of that type of stuff.
Very important details.
So since this is an interlocal agreement, it's not listed as a resolution or an ordinance.
We do have a resolution.
Okay.
2025-18 to approve the agreement.
2025-18.
Yes.
And then I'm assuming that we would then have to make a motion to amend what was in the packet with the red line version that you just provided.
I believe that's
Well, first we need to introduce the resolution, then we would need to do the amendment, and then we can, okay. Council President Weddle, can you introduce Resolution 2025-18?
Clerk Treasurer, please read Resolution 2025-18 by title only.
Interlocal agreement with the County of Elkhart for reconstruction of the bridge on College Avenue crossing Horn Ditch.
I move for the passage of Resolution 2025-18.
We have a motion from, I'm glad the two of you are here tonight. We have a motion from Weddle and a second from Nestle.
So
Any-
then I'll go ahead and make a motion to replace the interlocal agreement that came in the packet with what was provided, the red line version in front of us now.
Is there an extra copy by any chance?
Yeah.
Second.
I'll give her mine.
Questions or comments from the council? Any questions regarding the changes? Do you need a moment to review?
You have no problems with the changes?
no, I don't. As I said, the only thing of any significance would be on page 4, section 4.2. That just referenced about the timing for change orders for their county to respond to try to keep the project moving forward. They adjusted that to just state that as long as they didn't require them to do an additional appropriation, they would respond in that 7 days. But if they had to do an additional appropriation, they didn't need more time, which seems reasonable as we all know in terms of having the meetings and whatnot. So other than that, everything else seemed mostly just kind of wordsmithing and whatnot. So.
Okay. Any additional questions before we open to the audience?
Can we vote on the
Oh, apologies.
replacement first before the
Yep.
audience, please?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So we had a motion from Weddle and a second from Nestle. All those in favor of the adopting the amended version of the interlocal agreement, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Any other broader questions about the agreement in general from the council? Okay, we'll move to the audience. Any questions from the audience? Seeing none, we'll move back to the council for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. Okay, that brings us to the review and revisions of the rules for the common council. Bodie, are you introducing this or am I? We didn't draw straws ahead of time, so we can go.
So I sent out my email today, copies of ordinance 5242, amending Goshen Common Council Rules of Order. Basically, what this ordinance would do is amend the current rules. There have been discussions internally with city staff over the last probably year or 18 months about various tweaks that we thought would be appropriate to the rules. We gathered them all up and they're included in this ordinance. So I sent both a clean copy and a red line version so that you can see what revisions city staff and Mayor Lichty had suggested. So I'd suggest introducing ordinance 5242, and I'd be happy to answer any questions about the suggested changes showed on the red line version.
Sorry, Buddy, what was the name of that, or what the number for the ordinance?
5242.
Council President Weddle, can you introduce
Yes.
ordinance 5242?
Will the clerk treasurer please read resolution 5242 by title only?
Amending Goshen Common Council Rules of Order.
I move the passage of resolution 5242.
Ordinance.
We have a,
Let's start over. Will the clerk treasurer please read ordinance 5242 by title only?
Amending Goshen Common Council Rules of Order.
Thank you. I move for the passage of ordinance 5242 on first reading.
Second.
we have a motion from Weddle and a second from Letterock. Okay. Just a quick identification of some of the changes. One of the things that we updated in the rules of order were reaffirming that Robert's Rules of Order apply whenever federal state statute law does not specify procedure. That just ensures consistency in our deliberations. We had a change in section 3 under the role of the Common Council President. And this, there was a conflict within this section where it said that if the mayor is absent, then the deputy mayor acts as mayor. And if the deputy mayor is absent, then the council president would serve as acting mayor for the city. So it would also follow logically that the responsibilities for facilitating meetings would fall in the same order. So if the mayor is absent, then the deputy mayor would serve in that capacity. And if the deputy mayor is absent, then the council president would serve in that capacity. So we changed the language to be consistent in that role. Sorry, Mark. To facilitate more meetings. And I did speak with Council President Weddle ahead of time about that. Let's see, what other changes? In section 9 under prohibited conduct, we did add the option for removing a person who was ruled out of order. We wanted to be more explicit that that was a possibility. And then, let's see. In section 10, there were some state statutory changes about public notice. So we've updated that section to be consistent with statutory requirements of the state. And we included in section 10 that there could be an option for a sign-in sheet just as a procedural mechanism, allowing us to have names and call on people in order that they sign up. If that's not a requirement or something that we would necessarily have to do, but if we assume we're going to have a larger number of speakers, it does aid in the efficiency of the meeting facilitation if we know who's going to speak and we can call on people in order and keep things moving. But one of the things that we did review and clarify is that everyone would have 3 minutes unless decided upon by the council during presentation times, 2 minutes. Let's see. I think those are the top level questions. Are there specific questions from the council about any of the proposed changes that have been included?
So one question that was brought to my attention by Councilman Nisley, and I think it's an appropriate one. As presiding officer, in the event of a tie, you cast a deciding vote. In this situation, I'm just going to use the example that we have now. Mr. Brinson, our deputy mayor, is not an elected official, does not reside within the city limits of Goshen. I think we need to have some consideration, making sure that as presiding officer in that situation,
You'd be
my
within-
personal opinion is that person should not be allowed to vote. And in discussing this just very briefly with Bodie prior to the meeting, he's not sure that there's distinction in the state statute that prevents that from happening.
That prevents what,
The deputy mayor from casting a vote in the event of a tie.
right?
Being elected official.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I think needs to have some clarification.
Okay. I think some statutory review would be helpful there because the deputy mayor would serves in my place on the Board of Works and would be voting in that case as well. So we would need to.
Most of your Board of Works members aren't elected, other than yourself.
Right.
So there's
That's
a
what I'm
little bit of a
saying. I
difference there.
am. So in that case, he would have that authority. So I think
So I guess
I'm
that's
willing
it.
to wait on that.
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to hold up the vote on the entire adoption, like if we want to make an amendment and have more time for review on that
I
particular
think we definitely
item,
need to, and I think
that would be fine by
I would
me.
love to have some, it's not my position, I'm not on Board of Works, but I would certainly like some clarification. I believe every Board of Works member that you appoint has to be a resident of the city of Goshen.
Guess you're moving, Mark.
And no, and that this
Oh,
is, we're just using this as an example. I mean, no offense, there's nothing against Mark at all. But obviously the deputy mayor does not have to live in Goshen, but I think there needs to be some clarification on.
And I'm happy to
Yeah.
explore that further to make sure that we're in compliance with any statutory requirements before we revisit that. Yeah, I think it's a unique set of circumstances,
is.
but worth looking at. So, Counselor, are you making a motion that we withdraw that change?
Not necessarily, I could care less who runs the meeting. That makes zero difference to me whatsoever. I just want to make sure that if we're ever in that position, there's no ambiguity about it.
I would agree with that. I also don't think that there's unanimous consent to move on to a second reading tonight, so we could always add it in.
Sure.
Okay.
I would agree with the comment about unanimous consent. The public hasn't had an opportunity to look at this, and I think we should allow that since it involves their participation in our meetings.
Because that was another question I had. This was not in the packet. The agenda might have had this listed, but there was no documentation in the packet that went out to the public. Can we even take a vote on this since it wasn't in the packet?
The public just has to be notified about what's on the agenda.
That's correct.
That clarifies. I did have one other question. This was
Sure.
put in here very specifically many years ago, discussing the agenda.
Mm-hmm.
And this goes back multiple clerk treasurers. So this is not a reflection on current or, we're talking like the last 4 clerk treasurers. There were some concerns with not getting our agendas and the packets in a timely fashion. I know this says 48 hours, but it was set specifically.
Councilman Little, could you tell us where you're at?
I'm sorry,
Section 11A.
section 11 D on page 5. So this was set specifically to have us receive the agendas and packets by Thursday for very specific reasons, so that we would have time to contact city staff and ask questions and investigate. And so I'm just wondering why we're reverting to 48 hours. And again, a lot of this also revolved around the fact that meetings used to be on Tuesdays. So in theory, we could get agendas like Friday at 5 o'clock, which at that point, city staff, let's be honest, city staff responds to questions via email at all times, but I'm just wondering why we're,
Is this 48 hours business days or?
Yes, and part of the reason too is you've had Friday meetings
Huh?
on occasion. So picking a specific day of the week does not always align with having meetings on multiple days during the week.
fair. And then let's follow up with Councilman Peel's question, 48 hours. I'm assuming that, I think I read that it does not include holidays or Saturday and Sunday. Is that correct? And so with this in mind, with our meetings being held at 6 o'clock on Mondays, what would be the latest time that the clerk treasurer's office would post the agenda?
Thursday at 6.
Thursday at 6, is that right? So it's really not any different than what we have.
But I think it would,
Is that fair?
for clarity's sake, I think it should reflect that it's 48 business hours.
And I think it,
Does it?
I
doesn't
think I
say
read
in-
that somewhere.
it Doesn't say that in D. Just as 48 hours.
Is the 48 hours by statute?
Yes.
That was my understanding, that that was a statutory change. So part of what the changes are coming from are accessibility laws and wanting to make it less expensive for cities to publish things in newspapers. So they're allowing more electronic communication. So there's a bit more flexibility in the amount of time that you're required to actually have it published for
So
the
then,
public. So
To your point, Councilman Peel, it's in section 10, public notice of meetings. That's where in A, that's where it says 48 hours excluding Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays. But that's just notice of the meeting. That's not the agenda.
I think it needs to have something in there like that.
Yeah.
Just include excluding Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays after you say 48 hours.
I'd be fine with that.
can you specify that, are you making a formal motion?
I think we need to make a motion to amend section 11D so that it says the agenda shall be posted on the city's website at least 48 hours excluding Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays before any regularly scheduled common council meeting.
Second,
So we have a motion from Peel and a second from Weddle. Any additional discussion on this amended language from the council? Questions or comments from the audience? Okay, we'll move back to the council for a vote on the amended language for section 11 D. All those in favor?
aye.
Any opposed? And that amended language passes unanimously. Bodie, you got all that changed? Excellent. Okay. Next, what additional questions do you have?
Maybe I missed something. That was for the agenda. What about the packet?
That-
Is that part of the agenda? It's not because we,
I always assumed the agenda
I mean,
was the packet.
Right,
Packet was
generally the
agenda.
packet comes with the agenda,
the
But
agenda's an
like
attachment
tonight-
on the email at the top
right?
by itself. The link is the packet.
It's true.
I need the packet, not the day that I'm
Right.
working. So I have time to read it.
So I guess that's goes right back to my question that I had previously. The agenda was, we received the agenda last week.
We didn't get the packet.
We didn't get the quote, we got the packet, but it didn't include this ordinance until this evening. And so as Bodie has said, statutorily, the agenda is the only thing that has to be posted. The packet doesn't, but we all want the packet.
Most of the time, that's very feasible. There are some extraordinary circumstances where, there may be things that departments are working on that they're not able to get some of the details of that information pulled together until much closer to that time. But I understand. I mean, the intent is to get you things a week ahead. That is that's the most useful and I mean, equipping you with the more knowledge that you can possibly have helps you make better decisions. So that's certainly the intent.
And I would say 99% of the time, we've received the information. So I don't feel like it's a problem, but I think we all want to make sure it doesn't become a problem.
Does it need to be in the ordinance or does it just need to be?
I think we do.
Could potentially just as a statement of intent, perhaps include some language like the council requests that the clerk treasurer provide a copy of the packet at least 6 days, 7 days in advance of the meeting.
We don't hardly ever get the packet.
No.
I say, I don't think, I don't think that our packet needs to come any faster than the agenda. Our concern is that the agenda comes later. The packet comes later than the
And
agenda.
that's where the meat of it.
There's,
Right.
I think that's more expectation than we deserve to ask for the packet prior to the agenda.
As we're doing now.
But I want to be careful not to incur or set up a situation where there's a rule violation. And who then do we hold responsible if we want to, that becomes an issue. So I think an intention, if we're careful about the wording, rather than saying that or rather than it becoming something that could potentially be a rule violation.
I would appreciate that because there are certainly cases where we're waiting on a developer to finalize an agreement that needs to come before the council, and Bodie's trying to pull together the ordinance language that's predicated on that developer's agreement. So there's a whole series of cascading things that have to happen to bring those things before you that are included in those packets. So
Yeah, a good example of that is the last agenda item, the interlocal
Yeah.
agreement. We were waiting on comments back from the attorney on the other side. So
Yeah.
we didn't have that until today.
Correct. Now, there was one in there and we just replaced it. So I think what the intention should be, which is, I'll use this as the example, which is in the new section 15 is the minutes, where it says here that the common council strongly encourages the minutes to be prepared in time to be approved at the common council's next regularly scheduled meeting. That's an intent. It's not a hard, fast rule. And so, well,
Yeah.
right. So I think then that is what you're suggesting is we do that type of thing. And I
that would
think
be my
Councilman Gurmey,
recommendation.
we're going that direction as well.
Mhm.
That seems like a good idea that doesn't tie our hands in case of something significant coming up where we have to add it last minute.
This happens a lot at redevelopment commission as well because of trying to get contracts and everything. So a lot of times they're bringing the language in, which can be a little frustrating, but tend to get through it.
Could we include that intent in D at the end of that sentence? Just add another sentence similar to that of. Are you good with that?
Just say it, yeah.
Or should we add it to like a separate line on G?
Just trying to avoid having to renumber.
I'll make a motion to amend section 11 by adding point G that states the common council strongly encourages that the packet be prepared 48 hours prior shall be provided at least 48 hours excluding Saturdays, Sundays, and legal holidays before the meeting.
Okay,
Second.
we have a motion from Weddle and a second from Nisley. Bodie, did you get all that language as well? Okay. Any additional questions or comments on that motion? Any comments or questions from the audience? We'll move back to the council for a vote on the amended language to add an intent for the packet preparation prior to the meeting. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That passes unanimously. What additional questions do counselors have?
You know, there's been some conversation, discussion historically about the motion to reconsider.
Oh,
Is that resolved via Robert's rules? Is there any confusion? Do we need to have any clarifying words for that?
I think that's covered by the suggested change at the end of section 1, where it states the common council shall endeavor to follow Robert's rules of order. That amends the prior language that says the common council or Robert's rules of order, most editions shall govern proceedings. So the new language is that the council will endeavor to follow the rules. And if there's a technical mistake, that won't hold up the proceedings.
Thank you.
All of them.
Well,
Very technical.
yeah, it's very, very technical. The idea is behind Robert's rules as a general perspective is to keep order in a meeting. So really the technical rules, Robert's rules only comes into play when there's a breach of order at the meeting and you have to rely on rules to determine how to move forward. So I think the general idea behind this revision would be that we're going to follow Robert's rules the best we can, but we may not technically follow every rule. If that makes sense.
I've read that it has to be continuing of that meeting. I've also read that it can be before the next meeting. So
Right.
Yeah, there's a lot of ambiguity there, and I've read a lot of different opinions, and as detail oriented as that book is, I think there's still some gray.
Right. Yeah, and there's overarching rules that kind of apply generally and then specific rules. And so which of those are you going to rely upon? I think it's safer for the council to say, we're going to do our best to follow the rules, but we may not follow each rule to the T.
Okay. What additional questions do you have, counselors?
should we go to the public?
Yep. Any questions or comments from the floor? Okay. Counselors, do you want, oh, yes. Welcome, Julia.
Hiding in the back.
Julia Gauchi, Goshen. Did you change the number of minutes that the public can speak from 3 to 2?
No, we did not.
Okay, okay. I wasn't sure of
No.
what I was hearing, so thank you for that.
No, I just said upon review, we confirmed that the number of minutes is 3, unless the council makes a determination that they would like to have it as 2.
Correct, I agree with that. Thank you.
So it's just affirming the existing rules and acknowledging that I screwed up a few weeks ago. Okay, any other questions from the council? Or sorry, from the audience? Counselors, do you want to make a motion about, before we vote, about
So
amending?
this can be passed in one meeting if there's no issue with it being passed in one meeting. Is that correct? Okay. So I personally am completely uncomfortable voting on this until we have clarification on the presiding officer, deputy mayor situation. And so if this goes to a vote tonight, I'll be voting no because I don't have clarification on that. So I would prefer to table this till the next meeting. And then that also serves the purpose of getting this out to the public so everyone can see it. And then I don't have any issue with having 2 readings at the following meeting if everyone else is.
I think that's fair.
Sounds good. Do we have a motion to table?
I'll make a motion to table.
Second.
We have a motion from Weddle and a second from Nisley. Any additional questions or comments from the council or audience?
Undebatable.
Undebatable. All right.
Right.
All those in favor of tabling, counselors?
Aye.
Any opposed to tabling? Okay, we have unanimous consent to table this. That brings us to the final item on our agenda, action item, I believe. Get back to my. So Jeffrey was kind enough today to provide an updated financial report as part of his consulting agreement with the city. And I just got this afternoon, so I prepared a quick summary to review with you this evening. Okay. There should be 3 in there. Thank you, Counselor Peel. Okay, so I want to start off by just taking a look at our overall financial position. So we started the year with a cash balance of 105.5 million. We've received 44.35 million in revenue and spent 54.14 million with a current balance of 95.7 million as of October 31st. I will note that these numbers have not been, the reconciliation is not complete yet. Jeffrey is still working through that reconciliation. He indicated that the revenue, there may be some deposits that need to be added, but that the expenses should all be accounted for. So the reduction in fund balances is largely due to the fact that we get multiple distributions of our lit and property taxes. So those will come later in November and December of this year. But our revenue collections stand at about 70% of the 2025 budgeted amount. And normally we'd expect 80 to 83% if we got revenues at the same interval throughout the year, but we get those in large distributions. So November is when we get our lit distribution, and that affects our general fund, the public safety lit, and the economic development lit. And then our property tax come in June and then late December, and that also impacts our general fund, our debt service funds, TIF funds, and other property tax supported funds. So with those 2 major revenue events, the October events or October reports will always appear to be artificially low. On the expenditure side, through October, they should be about, it looks like they're about 50% of the annual budget currently. And most funds are within expended ranges. Some notable exceptions that you might see in expenses. There's a few departments that are entering tighter constraints in Q4. The cemetery, and we attribute that because there's so much mowing and that's where all the activity happens in the summer. So we will likely see much less expenditure on personnel in the coming months. The environmental resilience, I reviewed that with Jeffrey today, and that's very likely due to the fact that we need to transfer some grant funds into that fund. And then police and fire. And then on our infrastructure and capital funds, things that are a little bit tighter, our stormwater management and our unsafe building fund, which we had higher than typical activity, and some TIF funds that had lower spending just due to project delays. But in general, the overall fund health is strong. So we have strong balances in our general fund. Our Southeast TIF, our consolidated river race TIF, and our rainy day fund, which we hadn't budgeted to spend out of our rainy day fund. And then funds we'll be keeping an eye on will be our debt service funds, our opioid settlement fund. We had some planned expenditures there, both with a loan that we did with La Casa and also with Oaklawn for some supportive housing, and also the new outpatient center for Oaklawn Hospital. And then the TIF on College Avenue is temporarily negative just due to some timing. So are there any questions from the council? Go easy on me, Don. I'm not Jeffrey. So I've taken a look, but I haven't dug into the numbers.
So
as
this
much.
narrative summary is actually quite helpful.
Thank you.
And I know that we won't be receiving services from Jeffrey in perpetuity, but if this
The
type memo
narrative
type
is from
format.
me. The numbers are from Jeffrey.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah.
I appreciate this, and it would be helpful in future reports to see a narrative like this.
I will pass that along to the clerk treasurer as well. Okay. Any additional questions? Is there a motion from the council to approve the report as presented?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion from Weddle and a second from Peel. All those in favor?
Aye.
And that report is approved. That brings us to privilege of the floor. Is there anybody here tonight? I know we have some college students from Goshen College. Any of you have questions or comments or things you'd like to ask the council about that were not on tonight's agenda? Going once, going twice. Mr. Stoffer?
Paul Stoffer, Goshen. I am not a college student, but I just wanted to say thank you to, I know a number of members of council put in a lot of work on the community conversation that was held at the Goshen Theater last Wednesday. And thank you to Mayor Lichty, who also helped organize that and who hosted. I was really pleased. I was very impressed with the turnout and the questions, and I was very, very happy with that. And I was very proud of Goshen to see that many people show up to talk about taxes on a weeknight. So thank you for your work on that.
Thank you. Appreciate that. Anybody else before we move to elected official reports? Okay. Counselors, any elected official reports?
Linda brought up a point about reopening the cycle center. And I did get contacted by a couple residents that live in the city that I think everybody agrees it would have to be manned to have security out there. And they mentioned, well, why didn't the city put it at the environmental center? There is already somebody there during regular business hours. But having manned, somebody kind of run, use the word security. I just wanted to mention that if we did ever try, it might work if it was at the environmental center. Already is people on staff there, kind of keep an eye on stuff.
Thank you, Counselor. That is something that the team looked at and evaluated, and I will allow Dustin to provide the details, but the broad strokes are that the surface at the environmental center was not suitable to hold all the weight of the containers or the trucks that would be using it regularly. So it would have required a major infrastructure investment from the city to make that feasible. But I'll let Dustin embellish or add to any additional details that might be relevant at that location.
Yeah, as the mayor said, that was one of the items. At that time also, the previous mayor had the Mayor's Environmental Council, and they looked at, I think it was 5 different sites, and the site that was selected on Indiana Avenue was the one that that group had selected, and that's why we ended up placing it on Indiana Avenue originally.
So spitball this for me. If we would put the infrastructure there, how much do you think that would cost?
Well, on the site that we currently have, we have about $120,000 invested in our time and gravel and everything else invested.
On the existing?
On the existing.
Does that include all the fencing and all the cameras and the money that the county gave us?
All in.
And so is that more or less than what would have been required to put it out at the environmental center to begin with?
We would not have placed the fence or the cameras, would have been slightly less at the environmental center.
So in other words, it could have been done if we hadn't spent the money where we did.
Ultimately, the big thing out there at the environmental center is we are in a landfill. So I'm not sure exactly once we scraped off the top what we would get into.
So then who did you say selected that site?
The Mayor's Environmental Council from the previous mayor.
So I guess I appreciate a group contributing to that decision, but I think that a decision with city staff making a final determination on something that would make a whole lot more sense. I think we all probably predicted the fact that it would have turned into a dump site. And I hope in the future, whenever we make decisions like that, we take advice from outside groups, but city bring it and make smarter decisions.
Yeah, obviously I wasn't here at this time, but from what I understand and talking with Dustin about this extensively, as we looked at resolving the issues that had emerged, there was careful consideration made that involved our city engineers as well in evaluating where would people be most likely to utilize the site. We wanted to make it as accessible as possible initially. There were also changes in circumstances with the county and other municipality abandoning their sites concurrent to us setting up our site that exacerbated the problems there. I appreciate what you're saying, Counselor, and that, you know, it sounds on the surface level like we allowed an outside group or, you know, a council to make a decision on behalf of the city, but there was active input in that process with city staff from that time too.
So I think I can say I'm disappointed. I understand it's closed and I think it should be closed because of the complications, but it still was a good asset to have if it could have been utilized appropriately.
Yeah. One of the things, Dustin, I remember you telling me about that site is that there are also just space limitations with the configuration out there. So we'd have to do some renegotiating with our contractor out there to.
Correct. We have some setback areas that are required for the environmental center. The one area that we currently place our winter snow is probably the primary area, but we don't really want to give up our excess snow storage area in the winter. So that's where all the downtown snow goes.
You stirred the pot really good, Matt. This is a good Counselor Schrock. Sorry, it's a good question, and you know, I think it's something that it is worth evaluating. Most of the people who use that are from out of town, and I think were the city ever to consider something like that again, there'd have to be broader conversations county-wide about how that station is operated. And
does the environmental center turn away county residents?
No.
I believe that, correct me if I'm wrong,
Which environmental center are you talking about?
One with a
Oh, the,
recycling center.
not the recycling center, the environmental center.
No, county residents or businesses are not turned away, but they are charged a fee.
city residents get it for free.
Anybody else with the board or committee report or other general
Just a quick
comment?
comment. I want to thank Councilwoman Gerber for working jointly with the presentation that you and Elkhart County Councilman Stephen Clark performed. We had approximately 30, just under 35 questions submitted to us, and I think they were all very good. And again, I think that the community engagement, the attendance reflects the importance of the issue. And so I want to thank the community as a whole for showing that level of interest. It's refreshing to see that.
All right.
I met with the EID last week. And for those in the public who don't know what the EID is, it's the downtown businesses that are self-taxing, and then they do things for the downtown that are self-improvement, like the furniture that's on the sidewalks, snow plowing in the winter, and specifically banners that are across the street. And so in the past, that banner program, so if somebody wanted to put up a banner advertising something for a 5K run, or say Goshen College might want to put something up there, it's been a bit haphazard and not necessarily organized or done through a process. So that kind of got lost in translation over the years. And the EID, along with Board of Works, really trying, well, Dustin is trying to make that more of a process. And so there will be a form that needs to be filled out and guidelines. So now they will know who is putting them up, when they're putting up, when they are coming down, so on and so on. So it's a good thing.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Just a
Counselors?
quick thank you to city staff, and I think it was Sign Tech. They replaced all of our flags downtown
Mhm.
in time for Veterans Day.
Yes.
So that was very nice to see.
And I appreciated the city letting us know. Typically our city street department repairs those flags throughout the year as they become worn. And they're very conscientious about it. Our lift truck has been out of commission now for several months. And so they hadn't been able to attend to that in the way that they typically would. But as soon as we realized that they were in such terrible condition, Signtech was able to step forward and get that remedied very quickly. So yeah, appreciate their quick response. Anyone else? Any youth? Well, hold on. Youth advisor updates? Okay.
We have to play right now.
Okay. All right. Counselor Nisley, I think you had the motion, and let's see, Linda had the second. All those in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
Thanks, man.